So yes, this is the same Silverado, if you guys recognize and followed along with the series I did in late 2022 as far as the 2023 Silverado with the 2.7 liter 4-cylinder engine. Today we're taking this truck up to Chicago for the Chicago Auto Show Media Day, so I'm very excited for that. But this video is going to focus on the MPG because if you guys know and followed along with that series, I did do an MPG test with this truck. However, it was mostly city-focused type of driving. So it really was kind of a worst case scenario. This truck was still being broken in at the time. It definitely has been used a little bit more as it is currently a service loaner. So it definitely has some more miles on, it should be more broken in, the engine should be more freed up, as well as the highway style of driving should improve my MPG results that I kind of come across with this truck. So we're gonna find out today and over the next few days whether or not I can meet the EPA estimated range, at least on the highway, driving about 70, 75 miles an hour, and see how it does. So you can see the truck is actually full of gas, has an estimated range of 372 miles based upon the previous driving history of this truck. And actually, I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have more miles on it than it does. Just over 1,240 miles. So that is relatively about double from what I stopped driving this truck late last year. So it'll be interesting to see just how much the MPG improves, but of course we are doing highway type of driving, which is significantly better outcome than that of city type of driving. So we're gonna go head on to Chicago. We're gonna be taking Interstate 80 most of the way up there until we get around Joliet or so, and we'll start going north towards McCormick Place. But yeah, we'll go ahead and check in on the route here, see what the truck says we're getting along the way, and then of course on our way back, we'll do a fill up, actually calculate based on the gallons and the amount of fuel put back in the truck what it got, and again, hopefully it's close or above the EPA rating. So we just made it to the parking garage here at the hotel. I do want to show you guys quickly what the mileage and everything was, but we made very good time. We actually used less than a half a tank, so which should mean we should make it all the way back before needing to actually fill up, which is good. Wasn't expecting that, but anyways, you can see 269 on the range, 171.4 miles was our total drive up here, and you can see we just crested the 20 MPG mark at 20.2, average speed 64 miles an hour. So yeah, pretty good results so far. I believe that is very close to the EPA rating on the window sticker. I actually forgot what the window sticker rating is on this truck, but I believe it's somewhere right in the low 20s. So very good results so far. We'll have to see if that continues not only on the way back, but also any driving I may do around here. I don't think there's much I'm gonna do, but yeah, so 20.2 MPG, 171 miles. So we just got back to the dealership. I didn't feel like stopping. I did film one short update clip almost all the way here, so it's not really relevant. But anyways, we did make the round trip on one full tank of gas, which is, I guess, nice in this truck. That might be a frequent commute if you happen to live in this area where we're from and commute back and forth to Chicago. So that is possible on one tank of fuel with the 2.7 anyway. Now our average for this part of the trip, 173.6 miles, was 18.2 MPG, 2 hours and 44 minutes. Our average round trip, 345.1 miles, 19.2 MPG, average speed 63.3 miles an hour. So as you can see on the return trip, we got 2 MPG lower than that on the trip going up. And I believe somewhat of that is to do with, did have a slight crosswind, I guess you could say, maybe at the front corner of the vehicle heading west this time. I could feel it push me around, especially towards Chicago. The farther we got into Illinois, it really died off or the direction changed or something like that. But we did get 2 MPG less according to the truck. And it says we have 82 miles of estimated range left, which is probably equivalent to 4 or 5 gallons of fuel left in the tanks. So I welcome you here into the studio to continue discussion about the MPG I achieved on my recent trip to Chicago in the 2023 Chevy Silverado with the 2.7 liter 4-cylinder turbo. Now I do want to clarify a couple notes about the first part of this video before we get into the actual discussion and calculation of the real MPG that was actually put back into the truck at the gas pump versus that of what the computer stated. So the first point I want to make is, again, this was the exact truck I used in late last year to do all of the towing tests, the other MPG tests, and all of the other videos I did with the 2023 Chevy Silverado series. I do have a dedicated playlist here on the channel, and this video will go into that playlist as well. Now, as you guys know, I did do another MPG test. However, that was my daily driving commute, where most of the driving was done in a city or kind of semi-urban area where you're getting speeds of 30, 45, 50 miles an hour. But again, having a lot of stopping, having a lot of stoplights and everything like that, where this video is pretty much as solely interstate driving as you can get, speeds of 70 to 77 miles an hour or so the entire time, or about 99% of the time, I guess. Now, the second note I want to make is the blue 5.3 liter V8 Silverado that we used for the towing comparison video actually made this exact same drive. Now, they made their drive there and back in one day, where I made my drive there the same day they did, and then back a few days later. So half the trip is basically the same exact drive I made the same day, within the hour or so, and the trip back is, of course, on the same day, where mine was several days later. So that is the only criteria there, but I do have the truck's MPG via the computer that they got, and we will do a comparison to my average that I got in the 2.7 a little bit later in this video. And the next point I want to make is that, in case you guys didn't see it in the video, running boards as well as a soft tonneau cover were added to the black 2.7 that I drove, that were not there on the first test I did a few months ago with the truck. So those are the only variables changed in terms of the Silverado itself. Since the last time I did not only my daily driving MPG, but also since I just did all those other videos with the truck itself. But outside of that, the truck is the same as before. And the last thing I want to discuss is I did learn quite a bit more about the 2.7 engine since I did the last series with the Silverado. This was kind of due to the new launch of the 2023 Chevy Colorado, because as you guys have seen here on YouTube, basically everybody's done videos on the new Colorado and they are very excited about it. However, the engineering team from GM was allowed to discuss in depth relatively about this new high output engine, kind of some of the hardware internals, what the engine's based upon, how it was a ground up turbocharged platform, basically all these things that they discussed. And I do want to note a few items that I've learned that I didn't know previously about the 2.7. So the first point about the 2.7 that I didn't know before was it actually has active fuel management or cylinder deactivation, however you want to call it. So under certain scenarios and certain loads, it will actually turn off the center two cylinders and only run the outside two in a little bit more of an efficient or a little bit harder of a fashion. So this was actually something I didn't realize, but under certain scenarios, this does have cylinder deactivation. I also learned that the 2.7 has an electric or DC water pump that allows GM to basically independently control the coolant flow of the engine outside of the engine RPM itself. So for example, it allows them to heat up the cabin quicker in colder temperatures, and it also allows them to run the water pump and cool down the truck quicker when doing hard accelerations or towing, for example. So they can basically control the coolant flow independently of the engine RPM, which is very cool. Another thing that they talked about was the turbo oil feed is first in line off the oil filter, so the turbo itself is getting nice clean oil. I'm assuming that's important for lubrication, not to have any contamination in the oil that is feeding the turbo. So that is something that they mentioned. They verified that the engine is actually designed and tuned for 87 octane up to 15% ethanol. Now, I don't want to put words in Kevin Luchansky's, the assistant chief engineer for the 2.7 liter turbo's mouth, but in one of the videos or interviews he did, he basically said you are wasting your money if you're putting anything higher octane wise than 87 in the 2.7 high output turbocharged engine. So that's just something I want to mention, because I have had comments on my videos saying that this truck requires premium fuel or prefers premium fuel. That is actually not the case. An 87 octane Tier 1 fuels up to 15% ethanol is exactly what this truck is tuned for and where you can get the best performance out of the engine. So those are just a few things I learned over the last few weeks about the 2.7 liter in the Silverado, and essentially this is the exact same one going in the new Colorado if you get the Turbo Plus or the high output version of the engine. The low output version in the Colorado does have several hardware changes, which is why kind of GM went towards a cost savings route, and that is not eligible to be tuned up to the higher output levels. So you do have to get the Turbo Plus or the high output version of the 2.7, and that is essentially the same one found in the Silverado that I drove. But anyways, all that being said, now I want to dive back into the MPG that I was able to achieve on this highway test in this video. So just to recap, it was just over 171 miles each direction for a total of 346 miles and a few tenths or something like that. Due to the location, like I said, of both the start point as well as the end point of McCormick Place, these were just 1 or 2 miles off of the interstate itself. So overall, I would say there was less than 10 miles driven that was non-interstate type of driving, and the rest of it was essentially full-on interstate speeds. Now, of course, being Chicago, there was a little bit of traffic on my way back where I got down to like 30, 40, 50 miles an hour at times. But overall, most of this was 70 plus miles an hour. So as we saw earlier in this video, the truck stated that I got 20.2 MPG on the way up, and on the way back I got 18.2 MPG, and this makes an average of 19.2 according to the computer. Now I'm actually going to do the actual computation here with the mileage, so 346 divided by 19.363 gallons, and this is disappointing. So according to the actual calculations, we got 17.9 MPG. I don't know if you guys can see that or it'll focus there. 17.9 MPG round trip for the highway MPG test, which represents a 2.5 MPG gain over that of the city driving I did with this truck. So, the truck was off by well over 1 MPG, which was off by 1 MPG with the daily driving I did. So that's a little bit disappointing that this truck seems to be over computing or over calculating the actual MPG driven. Typically they're a lot closer than that. So yeah, this is, wow. I have to say I'm disappointed with the performance of the 2.7. I mean, 17.9 MPG, interstate driving. I get this is speeds over 70 miles an hour. But this truck's rated at 21 MPG on the window sticker. And the fact that we're not getting anywhere close to that on either of my tests seems a little bit odd. Now, there have been people that have commented on my videos saying that they are getting in the mid to upper 20 MPG range with this truck in the engine at interstate speeds. So I am a little bit puzzled as how people are actually achieving these numbers given the test via this truck that I've done. I get this truck only had 1,200 miles on it, but I would sure think by now the engine itself will be a little bit more broken in. Man, we're missing the mark by, hold on, 17.9 divided. We're missing the mark by 15% of the window sticker. So I guess another thing to bring up, given that we now calculated the actual MPG achieved, is the 5.3 liter V8 that I mentioned earlier. That did make the same drive. They made the drive on the same day there and back, so all 346 miles or so was done on the same day, where mine was broken up over 2 separate days. But the onboard computer on their truck, now like I said, they didn't fill up beforehand and fill up after to get the actual calculated MPG, but the onboard computer in their truck said just over 17 MPG in either direction. So I guess technically the 2.7 is still getting better MPG than the 5.3, but only marginally. The 2.7 is not targeted as a fuel economy engine. It is targeted for a lower emissions engine. So there's that point. Now the 2.7 also has more power than the 5.3, or more torque anyway, and does cost less not only to purchase, but if it gets marginally better fuel economy, at least in that regard, you are getting better fuel economy and saving money over time, just not maybe a significant amount or noticeable amount at that. Now, if you guys remember the other MPG video I did, the 2.7 achieved roughly 2 MPG greater than the 5.3 in my daily driving, as well as their daily driving, and the driving is somewhat similar between the two of us. A little bit favors the 5.3, I would say, but 2 MPG better in that truck. And as we can see here, it is going to be less than 1 MPG difference between the trucks on the highway. So I guess that's pretty much going to finish it up for this video. I don't want to stretch it out any longer. I do want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below on this actual achieved MPG with the 2.7. Again, this is a 2023 model year truck, so I assume this has the latest implementation of the 2.7 that they've been putting in these vehicles. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and rear world test of the Silverado. I wanted to do this video because I knew it was going to be a great test to see what the highway MPG figures was, and the chance I had to do it with the exact same truck was definitely awesome that I drove last December, like I mentioned. So I'm definitely glad I got to do this and have some rear world results with this engine. It's just going to be interesting to see, I guess, not only what the MPG is over time on average from owners with the high output, but also what it gets in the new Colorado coming out. So once again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you guys have a 2022 and a half or newer 2.7, 5.3 even, leave your actual MPG down in the comment section below. I'd like some of you guys to see if you can calculate it via the pump and the mileage driven versus what the onboard computer says, because I think there's definitely discrepancies at times between the two. And be interesting to see if they can kind of tune that in over time and see if they can get a little bit closer or not to the real world MPG scene. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe as usual. And in these videos, I don't want to mention it too much, but there is a way to send a super thanks or a super chat on every video if you guys want to support the channel further. Say you guys got something really helpful or just really enjoyed watching this video. I would appreciate any of those super thanks or super chats down in the comment section below. It's not necessary. I'm not saying you guys have to do it, but if you really want to help support the channel, that is a great way to do it. But anyways, let me know your thoughts as always, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.